أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون. صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدق رسول الكريم. صلوا على محمد وآله.
صلوات. مبارک 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 کہہ دو قرآن سے لوری سنائے آج عالم میں شبیر آئے کہہ دو قرآن سے لوری سنائے آج عالم میں شبیر آئے آ کے جبریل جھولا جھلائے آج عالم میں شبیر آئے کون سمجھے بھلا اس کی عظمت ناز اٹھاتی ہے جس کے مشیت جس کا جھولا جھلائے رسالت جس کی منزل ہے دوش نبوت جو پیمبر کو ناکا بنائے جو پیمبر کو ناکا بنائے کہہ دو قرآن سے لوری سنائے آج عالم میں شبیر آئے آ کے جبریل جھولا جھلائے آج عالم میں شبیر آئے کوئی منزل کوئی راستہ ہو عزم و ہمت ہو صبر و رضا ہو عرش ہو خانہ کبریا ہو وہ مدینہ ہو یا کربلا ہو تیرے جلووں سے سب جگمگائے تیرے جلووں سے سب جگمگائے کہہ دو قرآن سے لوری سنائے آج عالم میں شبیر آئے آ کے جبریل جھولا جھلائے آج عالم میں شبیر آئے جو کہ معراج ہے بندگی کی جس نے عزت رکھی ہر نبی کی مر کے خیرات دی زندگی کی آبرو رہ گئی آدمی کی کوئی کیسے اسے بھول جائے کوئی کیسے اسے بھول جائے کہہ دو قرآن سے لوری سنائے آج عالم میں شبیر آئے آ کے جبریل جھولا جھلائے آج عالم میں شبیر آئے جس نے سکھلا دیا مر کے جینا جو ہے تاج وفا کا نگینا جس کی چوکھٹ ہے مکہ مدینہ جب سے دی کا سنبھالا سفینہ آج تک پھر نہ طوفان آئے، آج تک پھر نہ طوفان آئے، کہہ دو قرآن سے لوری سنائے، آج عالم میں شبیر آئے، آ کے جبریل جھولا جھلائے، آج عالم میں شبیر آئے، کون سمجھے بھلا اس کی عظمت، ناز اٹھاتے ہیں جس کے مشیت، جس کا جھولا جھلائے رسالت، جس کی منزل ہے دوش نبوت، جو پیمبر کو ناکا بنائے، جو پیمبر کو ناکا بنائے، کہہ دو قرآن سے لوری سنائے، آج عالم میں شبیر آئے۔ صلوات۔
Brothers and sisters, let's welcome Shaykh Nabil with 3 loud salawat. Let's have 3 more loud salawat.
ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته، ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي سمي في السماوات بأحمد وفي الأراضين بأبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأطهرين، سيما أولهم أمير المؤمنين وآخرهم بقية الله في الأراضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم ملعونين. أما بعد, for the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Mirziya, for the enlightenment of the graves of Yawm al-Rahmeen, of the graves of the Shuhada, Ulama and Siddiqeen, for the safety of the followers of Ahlul Bayt around the world, and for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah al-A'zam, Arwahun al-Fida, please recite your loudest salawat. All praise due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is Rahman and the one who is Rahim. We have gathered in order to celebrate the birth of the 4th holy Imam, Imam as-Sajjad, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The first 3 of the wiladat of the holy month of Sha'ban, a month within which there is no period of mourning for Ali Muhammad. It is but celebration after celebration. The Imam alayhi salam was one of the first Imams that was born from a mother who was not Arab. The mother of the fourth Imam is a Persian princess by the name of Shahrbanu. And she dies in childbirth and is buried in Medina. So there's a particular ziyarah in Tehran that has been associated to her. It's incorrect. And it's written there. This is not that Shahrbanu, the mother of the fourth Imam. But she died in childbirth, giving birth to the fourth Imam. He was the middle son of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. His older brother Ali al-Akbar, and then Imam as-Sajjad is also known as Ali al-Wusta, the middle Ali, and then Ali al-Asghar. And this was something that really annoyed the enemies of Ahl al-Bayt. One day when Imam as-Sajjad was young, 3 or 4, he was walking in the street and Marwan, he stopped Imam as-Sajjad and he said, "You, who are you?" And he said, "I'm Ali ibn al-Hussein." He said, "Ali," he says, "don't you have another brother? What's his name?" He says, "He is Ali as well." Marwan says, "Did your father not to know any other name that he named you both Ali?" So Imam as-Sajjad, he comes home, he tells Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, says, "This is what Marwan said, that does your father not know any other name and he's named you both Ali?" Imam al-Hussein says, "What does that man know? If I was given 1,000 sons, I would name them all Ali." Says that I would name every single one of them Ali. The imamate of the fourth Imam, if we want to look at that phase of the life of the Imam, because much of the imamate of the Imam begins from post Karbala. And that phase of imamate, if you compare it to all of the other Imams, is arguably the most difficult imamate of any Imam. The fourth Imam's imamate begins in the midst of the flames of the tents that are now being looted on the day of Ashura in the land of Karbala. Imagine starting an imamate at that point. It starts from the burning of the tents. And then it continues, one event after another. After Karbala, after all of what the Imam has had to go through, from Kufa to Sham, from Sham back to Medina, and now he returns back to Medina, and there is a relative period, maybe about a year or so, of relative peace while people are beginning to find out. And in the 63rd year after Hijrah, the event of Harra occurs. The event of Harra occurs. And what is that? 2 years after the event of Karbala, when a common uprising begins in Medina, as a result of what the people did to Imam al-Hussein, the people of Medina finally decide that they'll wake up and do something. And so Abdullah ibn Hanzala, Yazid at that time, he calls various people to Sham to try and win them over. Muhammad Hanafiya has an invitation extended to him. And one of the individuals is Abdullah ibn Hanzala, the son of Hanzala Ghasilul Malaika, that was killed in one of the early battles of Islam. And the Holy Prophet gave him the title of Ghasilul Malaika, that the Prophet said the Malaika are giving him ghusl at this point. Anyhow, Abdullah ibn Hanzala, when he goes, he sees Yazid and he stays with him for a few months, as Yazid had wanted him to try and win him over. When he returns to Medina, he says to the people of Medina, he says, "I've remained with that individual for this many days and nights." And he says, "I never saw him, but he was intoxicated. Even at the time of prayers, if he prayed, he would pray intoxicated. Otherwise, he would not pray." And he says, "This is the type of person that you have placed as the Khalifa over you." He says, "I don't know about anyone else, but me and my 8 sons will revolt against the governor of Medina." So they start a revolution, and the people of Medina begin to revolt with him, and they throw out the governor. When Yazid hears about this, he sends an army under the command of Muslim ibn Uqba, and he says to him that when you reach Medina, there is free reign. You can do whatever you want. There is nothing to stop you. And this is one of the most brutal chapters in the history of the Medina of Rasulullah. When they entered into Medina, it's known as Harra because first they catapulted large boulders into Medina to destroy the defenses of Medina. When they got inside of Medina, what they did in 3 days, it is said that for 3 days, the streets of Medina, blood was flowing through the streets up until the knees of the horses. The year after the event of Harra, 1,000 illegitimate children were born in Medina. Yazid said to them, do what you want, rape, pillage, kill, you have free reign. Over 2,000 people were killed in that period of 3 days. And they went and they destroyed the mosque of the Prophet, and they tied their horses to the grave of the Prophet, allowing their horses to defecate over it. And this is something that we have in riwayat, that the Sufyani, when he arises, will do exactly the same thing. Will destroy the mosque of the Prophet and will imitate exactly what was done during the event of Harra. Now in this period, nobody touches Imam as-Sajjad. The people knew. In fact, Marwan, the very same Marwan, he comes to Imam as-Sajjad, he says, Yazid is sending an army. They won't come after you. They won't come after Ali Muhammad because they know you have no part in this. Will you take care of my women? Remember, this is Marwan, like right at the start, when Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam refuses to give bay'ah, and Marwan says to Walid ibn Utbah, he says, if Hussein doesn't give bay'ah, tell him we're going to cut off his head. He says, tell him we're going to cut off his head. Hearing that, this is that same Marwan. Now this same Marwan is coming to Imam as-Sajjad alayhi salam in the event of Harra, and he's saying, will you take care of the women of my household? Imam as-Sajjad alayhi salam says, send them. And they stay with Imam as-Sajjad for the whole period of the event of Harra and post it. And so much so, they say that the amount of peace and freedom we had in the house of Ali ibn al-Hussein, we did not have in the houses of our fathers. He says we didn't even have that level of peace. In the aftermath of the event of Harra, Imam as-Sajjad alayhi salam supported 400 families in Medina. 400 families financially, with food, with various things that they needed. Medina was decimated. It was decimated. Buildings were destroyed. The mosque of the Prophet was destroyed. People were reeling from it. And so Imam as-Sajjad began to help the people. So this is 63 Hijrah. 64 Hijrah, Yazid dies. And his son Muawiyah ibn Yazid comes to power. And the area and the time is so difficult. Muawiyah himself, Muawiyah ibn Yazid, was a lover of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. He had inclination towards Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. He assumed the power, but he realized that this was not something that he could control. And so after 40 days, he abdicated the throne and he left. Which at that point opened the door for Marwan ibn Hakam to come. And Marwan ibn Hakam came and he ruled. Again, the rule of Marwan wasn't very significant, 1 year at most. And after he died, then came the rule of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan in 65 Hijrah. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, son of Marwan, he had a nickname. His nickname was Hammamatul Masjid, the dove of the masjid. Why? Because of his piety, because of his dedication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the religion. He was very pious. He was always praying. He was always reciting Quran. When his father Marwan died, he was in the masjid. He was reciting Quran. They came and told him, your father has died. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, he closes the Quran, he says, هَذَا فِرَاقُ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنِكَ. Now this is separation between me and you. And he puts the Quran down. He became one of the most wretched and ruthless rulers from all of Bani Umayyah. He became one of the worst of the rulers of Bani Umayyah. He ruled for 20 years. And really, there is a real lesson in the life of this man. From becoming being Hamamatul Masjid all the way back, all the way, through the years, the moment that power comes to him, he starts to fall and becomes the worst of the Umayyads. Becomes the worst of the Umayyads. It's the same story when you look at Karbala. For example, you look at Shimr. Shimr wasn't always Shimr. Shimr is a veteran of the Battle of Siffin. Shimr is a veteran of the Battle of Siffin. He was injured in Siffin, fighting alongside Imam Hussein. But that same Shimr now is fighting alongside Imam Ali. But that same Shimr some years later is the killer of Imam al-Hussein. Scary thing. Don't ever take your position for granted. Don't ever take your spiritual position or what you have gained for granted, because it just takes shaitan a moment. It doesn't do it overnight. It does it slowly, slowly, slowly. Makes you think that you're something. And then you begin to slip. So during the time of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, one of the things that he did, he says that, when I was before, I wouldn't be able to see anyone slaughter a bird in front of me. If they slaughtered a bird, I wouldn't be able to eat it. I wouldn't eat for days because of it. But he says, now you could slaughter a human in front of me and I'll eat as I watch the blood flow. One of the things that he did was he hired an enforcer. An enforcer that would do his bidding and his will. A man that was more ruthless than him. A man by the name of Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi. Hajjaj is a person who has over 60,000 Shia blood, the blood of 60,000 Shias on his hands. Amongst them, Kumail ibn Ziyad al-Nakhai. When we recite Dua Kumail, that's Kumail. Qanbar, the slave of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Sa'id ibn Jubair, the very close companion of the Holy Prophet and Amir al-Mu'mineen. Hajjaj would kill people. Hajjaj was such a wretched individual that he would not get hungry until he had the head of a Shia in front of him. So that he would sit down to eat. Every meal he would sit, Shia would be dragged in. His head would be severed and Hajjaj would laugh at the killing of the Shia, and then he would say, bring my food, I'm hungry now. With all the blood around him. So during this time, Imam as-Sajjad alayhi salam spends 20 years during the reign of Walid ibn Abdul Malik. During the reign of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. And then he dies. And then next comes Walid ibn Abdul Malik. And again, the amount of propaganda against Ahlul Bayt increases the hatred. Imam spends 8 to 9 years under his reign when he eventually then poisons the Imam. But during this reign, there's a lot of hatred, a lot of enmity towards Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And a lot of time they were trying to downplay the maqam and the position of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. There's a very famous incident of Hisham ibn Abdul Malik, the brother of Walid, the Khalifa of the time, that he goes to Hajj and he was trying to go and reach Hajar al-Aswad. He was trying to kiss the black stone. But the people were there were so many people that they pushed him back. He couldn't make his way through the crowd. As he came back, annoyed, unable to get near the Kaaba, unable to get near Hajar al-Aswad, he comes back and he stands watching. And there's an individual next to him. He sees that all of a sudden there's a young man just coming. And as he's walking forward, the crowd is parting the way for him. And he walks straight forward and he touches Hajar al-Aswad and he kisses it. The Shami that was next to him turns to Hisham, says, Ya Hisham, who is this man? Hisham ibn Abdul Malik knows who this is. He knows. He says, I don't know. I don't know who he is. So the Shami says, you don't know? He says, no. At that point, there was a man standing next to Hisham ibn Abdul Malik, a man by the name of Farazdaq. Farazdaq says, I can tell you who he is. And the Shami says, Ya Aba Firas, tell us, who is this man? And there it is where Farazdaq recites a poem, there and then on the spot, in the praise of Imam as-Sajjad. He says, if you want to know who he is, I'll tell you. هذا الذي تعرف البطحاء وطأته والبيت يعرفه والحل والحرم. He says that if you want to know who he is, then this is the one who the land of Batha, the land of Mecca knows, the tread of his feet. He is the one that the Kaaba knows, and the sacred precincts and the water springs know who he is. هذا ابن خير عباد الله كلهم. He is the son of the best of God's servants from amongst all his servants. هذا التقي النقي الطاهر العلم. This is the pure, the clean, the pure-hearted, the noble one. هذا ابن فاطمة إن كنت جاهل. Says that this is the son of Fatima. If you are ignorant of this fact, بجده أنبياء الله قد ختموا. Upon his grandfather, Allah ended the prophethood with his grandfather. وليس قولك ما هذا بظائره. And you're saying that I don't know who this is of no consequence, O Hisham. العرب تعرف من أنكرت والعجم. Says the Arabs know the one who you deny of knowing, and so do the non-Arabs. And then Farazdaq carries on speaking about the generosity of the Imam until he reaches this line. He says, ما قال لا قط إلا في تشهده. He says this man never says no except for in his tashahud. Whoever goes to him, he never rejects him. لولا تشهد كانت لآه نعم. Were it not for the tashahud, this man would never say no in his life.
على حب السجاد إمام السجاد صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد. This is who he is. Sajjad alayhi salam, they could not deny the greatness of Imam as-Sajjad. He lived through the lives of these khulafa. And then, even interlaced in this period was a period of revolutions. There was the revolution and the uprising of Mukhtar, the uprising of the Tawabin, of Zayd ibn Ali, the various different movements that were coming in the name of avenging Karbala or trying to take on the Umayyads. And that's just on the political front. When you look at the social issues that the Imam had to deal with, it was extremely tough. This was the type of time that Imam al-Baqir says, during the time of my father, Imam as-Sajjad, it was easier to say that I'm a kafir or a zindiq than to say that I am a Shia. Says if they were to catch you and you said to them, I am a Shia, they would kill you. But if you said, I'm a kafir, they would let you go. Sounds quite similar to the days that we're living in now. History repeats itself. You know, Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says to his companion, Harith Hamadani, says, Ya Harith, know that history repeats itself. The actors may change, but the themes remain the same. This whole thing is recycled over and over. The people change, the themes remained the same. It was very difficult for Imam as-Sajjad alayhi salam. He couldn't give any speeches. He couldn't give any classes. There were no majalis for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. They were all banned. The ziyarat of Abu Abdullah was not allowed. The Imam used to go for secret for the ziyarat of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, or go for the ziyarat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. This ziyarat Aminullah that we recite, this is the ziyarat ma'thura of Imam as-Sajjad alayhi salam for Amir al-Mu'mineen. That assalamu alayki ya Aminullahi fi ardih. That, oh, the amanat of Allah upon the earth. Imam as-Sajjad would recite it. The Imam would go hidden in secret. One day Abu Hamza Thumali, he says that I was in Masjid Kufa and I was praying, and he says I saw a man walk in and he began reciting his salah at the various maqams of Masjid Kufa. Those of you that have been will have seen that there are various maqamat. Those of you that have not been, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take you very soon to be able to see these maqamat al-muqaddasa. It says that the Imam, this individual is reciting. So Abu Hamza says, I followed him because the way that he was reciting, the concentration that he had, it drew me in. So he says, I followed him. He says, when he finished and he began to leave, I approached his slave. I said, who is this man? He said, did you not recognize him? This is Ali ibn al-Hussein as-Sajjad. Abu Hamza Thumali at that time wasn't too close to Imam as-Sajjad. He goes to the Imam. He goes and greets him. Imam alayhi salam looks at him and says, Abu Hamza, would you like to come on the ziyarat of my grandfather, Amir al-Mu'mineen? He says, Amir al-Mu'mineen here? Because remember, the grave of Imam Ali was not known until the time of Harun. At this point, nobody knows where Imam Ali is buried. So Imam as-Sajjad says, come with me. Abu Hamza Thumali says, Imam as-Sajjad took us from Masjid Kufa to a desert area. And there was a small unmarked grave that was there. And he says, this is the grave of my grandfather, Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says, I stood with the Imam as-Sajjad and he recited the ziyarah on the grave by the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And then this is what started the relationship of Imam as-Sajjad and Abu Hamza Thumali, that it reached this point that they began to call Abu Hamza Thumali the Salman of his time. That he had achieved the maqam and the rank of faith like Salman had during the time of the Holy Prophet. So that was one aspect. It was difficult for the Imam. But also the social aspect of Medina. Mecca and Medina had become the party capitals of the Islamic world at the time of Imam as-Sajjad. You can never think of it, but when you look at the books of history in regards to Mecca and Medina at that time, it was commonplace and it was known for its dance parties, for its songwriters, for its singers, for its famous dancers, that people would know them, and they had massive celebrity status. The most famous of these singers and dancers came from Mecca and Medina. In fact, there's a famous incident of a famous singer, songwriter. He dies, and a man, he's narrating this, says, I was walking through the streets of Mecca, and he says, I saw a young slave girl. She was crying and weeping. And I said to her, what are you crying for? She says, haven't you heard Umar ibn Abi Rabi' has died? Yeah, Umar ibn Abi Rabi' was a singer at the time and a songwriter. Says he's died, and she's crying. He says to her that, look, what are you worried about? I know he has died, but you know that Khalid ibn Makhzumi is still alive in Medina, and he's a great poet and songwriter and singer. And so listen to her reply. Listen to her reply. She says, Alhamdulillah, that God has not left his harams empty of these songwriters and singers. Imagine how degraded the mindset had become. That was something that was, and she's saying, Alhamdulillah, Allah has not denied the harams of these blessings. Another incident, they said there was a celebrity dancer from Medina. When she had made the intention to go to Hajj, thousands of people came out of Medina to bid her farewell, her fans. And when she was going to Mecca, news had already reached that this famous dancer, she's coming for Hajj. Hundreds of people came from outside of Mecca to welcome her. Imam as-Sajjad is living here. The dance parties were so massively populated that there is an incident that in one house people were dancing and singing. There were so many people that had come in order to view and take part in that dance house that they'd gone onto the roof. Eventually the roof itself collapsed under the weight of the people, killing a number of people inside the home. So this is that situation that the Imam did. And this is also one of the reasons why the Imam turned towards dua. One of it is that the Imam couldn't openly speak about these matters because the Imam alayhi salam was in a state, he was being controlled at every point. The second reason that the Imam turned towards dua is because of the moral degradation. So if you ever see a community that is not religious, is not spiritual, Imam as-Sajjad is saying, they may be by name they're Muslim, by name they're Shia, but their actions are totally opposite to it. Their dress code is totally opposite to it. Their akhlaq is totally opposite to it. Imam as-Sajjad, he found the perfect solution. He said dua. Dua is the way to bring them back. And so he utilized dua. Look at Sahifa Sajjadiyya of Imam as-Sajjad. How many of us have actually read that Sahifa? How many of us have actually ever picked it up, even read one dua from it, let alone cover to cover? When Marhum Ayatollah Mar'ashi Najafi sent this to the head of Al-Azhar University, Tantawi at the time, when he received it, he wrote back to Ayatollah Mar'ashi Najafi and he said that my only regret in life is this, that this book reached me late. For I would have written a tafsir on the words of Ali ibn al-Hussein. Says, surely these words are dun al-kalam al-khaliq wa fawqa kalam al-makhluq. Says they are lower than the words of the Creator, but far above the words of the creation. We haven't even read it. You know when Allama Muhammad Taqi Majlisi Buzurg, the father of Allama Baqir Majlisi, he was an arif and was known for his spiritual stations. In one of his mukashifas, he met with Imam az-Zaman alayhi salam. He was reciting Ziyarat Jami' al-Kabira, he says, and then eventually he went and the Imam called him towards him, and he went and he sat with the Imam. And one of the things he asked the Imam alayhi salam, he said, give me the best book that will enable me to reach God outside of the Quran. The best book of dua. Imam Zaman alayhi salam says to him, then you should go to the Sahifa of my grandfather, Imam as-Sajjad. This is the best way for you to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to converse with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at the Sahifa Sajjadiyya of Imam as-Sajjad. Look at how it is that he converses. Dua for your parents, dua for those in debt, dua that those that want to increase in their wealth, dua for those that are ill, dua for those that are sad, dua for those that want to have children, dua for one's parents. Every aspect of one's life is covered in that single volume of the du'as of Sahifa Sajjadiyya. It is no small feat that it is known as the Zabur of Ali Muhammad. The way the Imam describes, the way the Imam converses with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all of these du'as, but especially one, You look at something like Dua Abu Hamza Thumadi. We're coming up to Shahr Ramadan, and look exactly how it is that Imam alayhi salam recites and he converses with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dua Abu Hamza is one of those hybrid. It's a dua, but it's also munajat. It also has the formality of a dua, but it has also the semi-informal nature of a munajat as well. And I explained that difference to you last time between dua and munajat. But there's one portion in that dua that I really love, in the way that Imam as-Sajjad alayhi salam highlights a particular issue. And then he gives about 10 reasons why that has happened. The Imam says, Allahumma inni kullu ma qultu qad tahayyat wa ta'abba'at wa qumtu li salati bayna yadayka wa najaytuk. Says that, my Lord, each time I decide that I'm going to pray to you, stand in the middle of the night and recite Salatul Layl, pray Salah to you, or that I'm going to recite Munajat to you, I'm going to converse with you. ألقيت علي نعاسا إذا أنا صليت. Something happens and you cast sleep on me and I fall asleep. وسلبتني مناجاتك إذا أنا ناجيت. And thus you deprive me of being able to converse with you confidentially whenever I try. مالي كل ما قد قلت قد صلحت سريرتي. Says, what is wrong with me? Says, whenever I feel that my inner self is becoming more inclined, more decent, more inclined towards you. وَقَرُبَ مِن مَجَالِسِ الطَّوَّابِينَ مَجْلِسِ. And my gatherings are becoming the gatherings of those that remember you, those that are the followers of Ahl al-Bayt. عَرَضَتْ لِي بَلِيَّةً أَطَالَتْ قَدَمِي. Something happens to me. I sin, I slip up, that make my feet falter. وَهَالَتْ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ خِدْمَتِكَ. And then something comes in the way that I'm pulled away from the gathering of the good people. I'm pulled away from the gathering, from wanting to do munajat to you. You cast sleep on me so that I'm unable to play with you. Sayyidi la'allaka an babika taradtani. Says, my Lord, let it not be the case, my master. Is it the case? Perhaps you pushed me away from your door. وَعَنْ خِدْمَتِكَ نَاحَيْتَنِي. Or maybe you have removed me. You don't want to see me. You've removed me from your servitude, from your service. And then the Imam lists the reason why this happens. Ever find yourself wanting to recite Salatul Layl? You make the niyyah. When you get to it, you're like, it's a bit tired. I'll do it tomorrow. Or when you're told, recite this munajat, stand in the middle of the night, talk to Allah, and you find things to do other than that particular action. And then you'll be like, I don't know how time got away from me. Start playing a game, start watching a show. Something happens, and I never get a chance to recite that Salatul Layl or do that munajat. Or maybe I find myself gathering with good people, gathering with people that strengthen my faith. But all of a sudden something happens and I get pulled away, unable to meet them. I become too busy. Things get in the way and I get pulled away. Imam says, what is it that I did? Something I did has taken this away from me. Says, أو لعلك رأيتني مستخفا بحقك فأقصيتني. Says, maybe you observed my disregard of your right over me. Thus, you distanced yourself from me. You distanced me away. I didn't fulfilled the rights that you had over me. Allah has rights over His ibad, the rights of worship, the rights of obedience, all of these things. But I didn't fulfill the right, the haqq of ubudiyya. So God pushed me away. أو لعلك رأيتني معرضا عنك فقليتني. Or maybe you saw me headed on a path away from you, and thus you yourself withdrew yourself from me. You saw me inattentive, away from you, going on a path that was away from you, so you yourself withdrew from me. أو لعلك وجدتني في مقام الكاذبين فرفضتني. Or maybe it is because you found me to be amongst the liars, thus you rejected me. You saw me as being someone who lies, not just to those around me, but to myself. Or even I lied to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How many false promises have I made year in, year out? How many times have I said, I'll do this, I won't, and I break the promise over and over. أو لعلك رأيتني غير شاكر لنعمائك فحرمتني. Or maybe it is because you did not find me thankful of the blessings that you bestowed upon me. فحرمتني, then you took them away from me, you deprived me. I had everything at my disposal, but I thought all of it was because of me and my hard work. So I never thanked you for it, so you took it away from me. Every ni'mah that you gave me, I never thanked you for it, so you took it away from me. أو لعلك فقدتني من مجالس العلماء فخذلتني. Or maybe it is because you did not find me fond of the gatherings of the scholars, to sit in the presence of the scholars, thus you put me down. Luqman alayhi salam, he says to his son, says, my son, I urge you to sit in the gathering of the scholars and listen to the words of wisdom. For Allah revives the dead hearts with the light of wisdom. In the same way, the earth is brought back to life with rain. Sitting in the presence of ulama, sitting in the presence, not online, in the presence of other pious individuals. When you sit in the presence of people, there is an inherent benefit that you gain in the presence of certain individuals. In another narration, the Holy Prophet, he says, what sort of alim should one sit with? What sort of scholar? And by a scholar, we don't mean someone who sits on the member or mu'ammam or anything. It's anyone. A scholar is known as one that knows a little about the deen and acts upon it. The Holy Prophet says, go towards those scholars who يدعوكم من الخمس إلى الخمس, that call you from 5 things to 5 things. Says من الشك إلى اليقين. The first thing, sit with the one who takes you from a state of suspicion to a state of certainty. ومن العداوة إلى النصيحة. The one that takes you from enmity towards well-wishing. وَمِنَ الْكِبْرِ إِلَى التَّوَاضُعِ. The one that takes you from pride and arrogance towards humbleness. وَمِنَ الرِّيَاءِ إِلَى الْإِخْلَاصِ. The one who takes you from showing off in public to sincerity in your actions. وَمِنَ الرَّغْبَةِ إِلَى الزُّهْدِ. Says, and the one that takes you from attachment to this world towards asceticism, towards detachment from the material world. Shows you that there is more than just what is here for you in the material. Says, maybe you did not find me fond of the gathering of the scholars. You know, certain people run from scholars. Certain people don't want to sit with them. As soon as they see them, they're like, oh my God, let's get out of here. This guy's too strict. He might comment on my beard. He might tell me something. He might tell me to pray. He might tell me to observe hijab or something like that. You know, oh my God, I have to be a Muslim around him. You know, like sometimes, I gave you the example last time, you know, sometimes unfortunately, I say unfortunately, we get called to recite nikah at weddings. And then, you know, everything is going on, all sorts of haram is going on inside. And the moment we walk in, everyone's like, oh my God, Mawla. Quick, 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 he's here. It's like, you're scared of me? You're scared of God. God's watching at all points. Yeah. Allah is watching. What do you care? What are you scared about me? If you're not concerned with Him 24/7, then, you know, there's not, like me walking in is not going to change your life. Like, I'm not the one dishing out heaven and hell here. You know, the hell is, he's dealing with that part of it. So, but some people, they're like, oh my God, so avoid the gathering of scholars. God forbid we end up learning something about the religion. And, you know, obviously it's easier online because you can mute him. I don't like what he's saying, boom. You know, put him on mute, and then maybe he's finished by now, and then unmute him, right? But anyhow, so the Imam says that maybe you didn't find me fond of the gathering of the scholars. That's why you pushed me away. أو لعلك رأيتني في الغافلين فمن رحمتك آيستني. Or maybe it's because you found me amongst those people who were ghafil, those people that were inattentive. They were unheeding of you. So you despaired me of your mercy. Not just me, but even though I could be a pious person, but I placed myself amongst those that are inattentive to God, Allah deprives me. If I put myself amongst family members who do not focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or I sit with friends who seek to distract me from Allah, or I sit in those places, or I enjoy the company of certain individuals who don't have God on their mind, Allah says, I will deprive you of my mercy. To be ghafil is extremely dangerous. The narration says that the ghafil, the one that is inattentive, has 4 characteristics. He's blind to his ways. He's blind. No matter how much you try and show them the truth, they don't want to listen. They don't want to see. They don't want to understand. The second is sahu. They forget certain things, a lot of things. They often err. They're constantly making errors. They're forgetful. Lahu. They enjoy to sit in gatherings that have no use to them. And they're hot-headed. So all of these things. One that is ghafil, this is what they do. أو لعلك رأيتني آلف مجالس البطالين فبيني وبينهم خليتني. Says, or maybe it is because you found me fond of the gatherings of the wrongdoers. Now look at this, what the Imam says here. Says, فَبَيْنِي وَبَيْنَهُمْ خَلَّيْتَنِي. And so what you did, you found me gathering in their gatherings. You found me fond of those gatherings, of people that were sinners, people that had forgotten you. And so you left me to them. I couldn't get away from them. Now, no matter how much I try and leave that group of friends that are sinners, they find some way of drawing me back in. I have some sort of thing that pulls me back in. Friends that are heedless of their responsibilities to God. Those friends that I try and pull away from, but every single time they find some way of sitting next to me in the majlis and distracting me. فَبَيْنِي وَبَيْنَهُمْ خَلَّيْتَنِي. And so you've left me to them, and I can't get away from them. أَوْ لَعَلَّكَ. Then the Imam says, أَوْ لَعَلَّكَ لَمْ تُحِبُّ أَن تَسْمَعَ دُعَائِي فَبَاعَدْتَنِي. Says, maybe it's the case that you just didn't even want to hear me pray to you. Maybe you have become so tired of my sin that you now don't even want to hear my voice of dua. Imagine that point where God now doesn't even want to hear my voice, so I can't stand to pray Salat al-Layl. I can't stand to do munajat. He doesn't want to even hear what I have to say. So you distanced me from you. أو لعلك بجرمه وجريرتي كافيتني. Or maybe you are punishing me for my crimes and my sins that I have committed over all of these years. أو لعلك بقلة حيائي منك جازيتني. The last thing the Imam says, or maybe it is because you found me lacking shame in front of you, and thus you have punished me for that. How do I lack shame in front of Allah? Every time I sin, every time I turn away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every time I choose to break a law of God, it's a lack of shyness. I have no haya in front of Him because I have no haya, no shame in my actions. When I'm shameless in the sin that I'm committing, it shows I have no shame in front of Him. Not just am I shameless, but those that are committing sins around me, I'm happy with it. I'm encouraging of it. I don't do amr bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar if, for example, my spouse in my house is not praying. Then I don't say, I'm like, oh, it's whatever, it's okay, it's fine. That happiness of it is that showing that lack of haya, that lack of shame in front of Allah. When my spouse is breaking the laws of God, then I'm like, I'm happy with it. And this could also be that alif majalis al-battalin, loving the company of the sinner, someone who's constantly sinning day in and day out, but I love being around them. And because of that, I'm being deprived of the closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the greatest things that Imam as-Sajjad left in this world was that treasure trove of dua for us, where he explains various aspects of one's life. On this night, the night of the wiladat of Imam as-Sajjad, let us make that intention that from this night on, we will continue, or we will connect ourselves to the du'as of Ali Muhammad. Because we're reaching a very integral part of the year. The first pit stop is coming on the 15th of Sha'ban, where now your destiny is being written in draft. Sayyid ibn Tawus, when he's explaining the importance of Laylatul Bara'ah or the 15th of Sha'ban, he says that how is it, some ask that how is it that destiny is written in Laylatul Qadr and also in the 15th of Sha'ban? Says that 15th of Sha'ban, when your destiny is written, it is written upon Loh-e Mahab wal Ithbat, the erasable tablet. And then you are monitored from the 15th of Sha'ban, how much you've achieved up until the 15th of Sha'ban, what you pray for, what you gained on the 15th of Sha'ban, and then you're monitored until Layal al-Qadr. And then in Laylatul Qadr, when you ask, if you've maintained what you gained on the 15th of Sha'ban, then you will gain more in Laylatul Qadr. This is what it means when we were talking about in Sha'ban, that to unlock the secrets of Shahr Ramadan, you need to obey and you need to do the ubudiyah of Allah in Sha'ban. You need to fast, you need to do tasbih, you need to, these things are not small. Do not consider something as being, like insignificant. Oh, I'm going to wait till Shahr Ramadan. No, force yourself to fast in this month. Force yourself to fast. Can you imagine of a whole community that were here 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and we were at the time of Maghrib and finishing Salat al-Maghrib to open the fast, there's only 3 or 4 people in a community. What does that say about our state? When the Prophet of God would fast Rajab, Sha'ban, Shahr Ramadan, when even the Urafa, the ulama, would do all of it. And we're not saying do all of it. At least try and find 3 days when you can fast. At least the last 3 or in between, anywhere, find some time to fast. And it's not like the mustahab fasts, they're difficult. They're easy. In fact, I was telling some people about some of the life hacks when it comes to fasting. If it's a mustahab fast and you make the niyyah of a mustahab fast, obviously owing to going on the basis that you have no qada of your wajibat, you're doing a mustahab fast. Now if you make the niyyah that you're going to do a mustahab fast, and let's say you did it at night, you woke up fajr, everything, and then you went to sleep and you woke up and someone in your family said, oh, do you want breakfast? And you say, yeah, okay. I only started fasting at 6, 7. And then I fell asleep. And then I woke up at 9:30, 10. Now they're offering me breakfast. You say, yes, no problem, I'll have it. Only if it's mustahab, huh? Not wajib. If it's a mustahab one. They say they offer you food, you say, okay, I'll have it. You eat that food, you will be given the thawab of a full day's fast, and they will be given a thawab of a full day's fast as well. And you can do this common, especially my younger brothers. Go to sleep with the niyyah. I want to fast tomorrow. Mustahab qurbatan ilallah. In the morning, if your mothers or your parents or your siblings offer you food, eat it. You get a whole day's fast and a spiritual ascent within yourself. It's these small things that you can do to connect yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these months. It's such an easy thing to do. Or if you've reached the time of Maghrib and you haven't eaten anything all day, you haven't drank anything, you haven't eaten anything all day, and it's come to the time of Maghrib, it's almost there, like you're seeing it's 5 minutes and you're like, man, I haven't eaten anything all day. Just do the niyyah, Ya Allah, this past day I fasted. It'll be counted as a whole fast. Well, people are rushing around, they don't get a chance to eat. And it's almost time now to go home and it's Maghrib or whatever. Make the niyyah, I was fasting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will count the whole past day as being your fast. When it comes to wajib fast, you have to make the niyyah before dhuhr. But when it comes to the mustahab fasts, you can go all the way up until just before the time of Maghrib to make the niyyah that I just, obviously based on the basis that you haven't eaten. You can't eat halfway during the day and be like, right, okay, I'm fasting now. It's mustahab. But when it's with a mustahab fast, if someone offers you food, then take it. It's in fact recommended that you take it. You consume it, and then you will pass on the thawab to that person, and you will gain thawab as well. And you never even need to tell the person that you were fasting if you really want to achieve a higher maqam. But even if you do, it's good. Like I shared my fast with you, and I shared my thawab with you. So these are things that we can do. These are ayyam, that are the days of fasting, of reaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't waste this opportunity, especially when it comes to the winter months. There's a narration that says, surely the winter is the spring of the believers. For the days are short for fasting and the nights are long for ibadat. This is, the believer looks forward to the winter, even if it's minus 25 or 30 or whatever it may be. The believer looks forward to it because the nights are long for his worship and the days are short for his fasts. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through the barakah of the fourth Imam, forgives our sins. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives the sins of our parents. Oh Allah, those of our parents that are alive, give them long lives. Those of our parents that have left this world, give them a place next to Ali Muhammad in Jannah. Oh Allah, those who are ill, give them shifa'ah. Those who are in debt, clear their debts. Oh Allah, give us tawfiq within our own lifetime to be able to see the rebuilding of Jannatul Baqi'. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq within our own lifetime to be able to have the freedom to stand next to the grave of Imam as-Sajjad and recite his ziyarah. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq for the ziyarat of Aba Abdullah this year and every year. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq for the ziyarat of the rest of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam this year and every year. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq for Hajj and Umrah this year and every year. Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time and allow us to be amongst his true muntadhirin, his true waiters, for the acceptance of these du'as and any of the du'as that you brothers and sisters have brought please recite 3 of your loudest salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
خوشنودی ہے امام سجاد باواز بلند صلوات. اللہ چند اشعار امام سجاد کی. کتاب عظیم و شجاعت ہے سید سجاد. کتاب عظیم و شجاعت ہے سید سجاد. خدائے صبر کی آیت ہے سید سجاد. کتاب عظیم و شجاعت ہے سید سجاد. وہ جس کے سجدوں کو سجدہ نماز کرتی ہے. وہ جس کے سجدوں کو سجدہ نماز کرتی ہے. وقار شان عبادت ہے سید سجاد. وقار شان عبادت ہے سید سجاد. صلوات علی محمد و آل محمد. اللہ چند اشعار ماہ شعبان کی مناسبت سے. یہ شعبان کا چاند وہ ہے کہ جس میں کئی چاند آئے نظر دھیرے دھیرے. یہ شعبان کا چاند وہ ہے کہ جس میں کئی چاند آئے نظر دھیرے دھیرے. یہ آل محمد ازل سے ہے عرشی اترتے رہے فرش پر دھیرے دھیرے. یہ شعبان کا چاند جو ہے 3 کو دین کی آس آیا تو پھر 4 کو میرا عباس آیا. نظام خدا بھی اصول وفا بھی کہ سورج کے پیچھے قمر دھیرے دھیرے. یہ شعبان کا چاند وہ ہے کہ جس میں کئی چاند آئے نظر دھیرے دھیرے. افضل الصلاۃ والسلام محمد وآل محمد. صلوات. یہ سب ساتھ مل کے پڑھیے گا. رہے ورد زباں شیعہ ناد علی. رہے ورد زباں شیعہ ناد علی. بڑے مشکل تو کہہ دو مدد یا علی. رہے ورد زباں شیعہ ناد علی. بڑے مشکل تو کہہ دو مدد یا علی. علی کا نام بھی نام خدا راحت جاں ہے. علی کا نام بھی نام خدا تیغ جواں ہے. علی کا نام بھی نام حرز طفلا ہے. لیا نام علی تو بلا سب ٹلی. عرش اعظم پہ لکھا ہے نام علی. بڑے مشکل تو کہہ دو مدد یا علی. رہے یا رہے ورد زباں شیعہ ناد علی. بڑے مشکل تو کہہ دو مدد یا علی. علی کے نام سے دونوں جہاں میں عزت ہے. علی کا ذکر بھی خالق کی عبادت ہے. علی کے نام سے غمگین دل کو راحت ہے. کرو حق سے دعا تو بنام علی. ہوگی حاجت رواں تو بنام علی. بڑے مشکل تو کہہ دو مدد یا علی. رہے ورد زباں شیعہ ناد علی. بڑے مشکل تو کہہ دو مدد. الہی واسطہ تجھ کو محمد مصطفیٰ کا. الہی واسطہ تجھ کو علی مرتضیٰ کا. الہی واسطہ حسنین کا اور فاطمہ کا. رہے ایمان ہمارے سلامت صدا. مومنوں کو نہ ہو کوئی رنج و بلا. بڑے مشکل تو کہہ دو مدد یا علی. رہے ورد زباں شیعہ ناد علی. بڑے مشکل تو کہہ دو مدد یا علی. علی کے نام سے ہو مستجاب سب کی دعا. جو کہے بیمار مومن دے انہیں جلدی شفا. کہتے آفت میں جو ہے یا رب انہیں کر دے رہا. تیری ذات ہے پاک خفی و جلی. ہو حصول ہماری مراد دلی. بڑے مشکل تو کہہ دو مدد یا علی. رہے ورد زباں شیعہ ناد علی. بڑے مشکل تو کہہ دو مدد یا علی. افضل الصلاة والسلام محمد و آل محمد. صلوات इलाही बीमार दाश्ते बला जो बीमार हो जल्द पाए शफा। इलाही बराहे इमाम ज़मान हमें हौल में है शर से दे तू अमा। क़यामत को महशूरों बाली उठे कब्र से कहे कि हम या अली है पाँचवनों में चहार दातन अहमद व अली ज़हरा व हसन शबीर से ले ता इमाम ज़मान शबीर से ले ता इमाम ज़मान एक एक पे सदा सलावत पढ़ो सलावत सलावत व सलाम या इमाम ज़मान फरमाओ ज़ुहूर या इमाम ज़मान सलावत अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अम्मा युजीबुल मुज़्तर्रा इज़ा दआहु व यक्शिफुस्सूअ। अम्मा युजीबुल मुज़्तर्रा इज़ा दआहु व यक्शिफुस्सूअ। अम्मा युजीबुल मुज़्तर्रा इज़ा दआहु व यक्शिफुस्सूअ। अम्मा युजीबुल إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا محمد بن عبد الله، السلام عليك يا أم المؤمنين خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا إمام حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. زيارة إمام سجاد. السلام عليك يا سيد الساجدين، السلام عليك يا زين العابدين، السلام عليك يا حليف الحسرات، السلام عليك يا ذا الثفنات، السلام عليك يا صاحب العبرات، السلام عليك يا أسير الكربات، السلام عليك يا أعظم آل العباء، السلام عليك يا ابن خامس أصحاب أهل الكساء، السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الشهداء، السلام عليك يا عماد الأتقياء، السلام عليك ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك وعلى أختيك زينب أم كلثوم وبنت، السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولى وابن مولى، السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء، السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء، السلطان أبا الحسن علي بن موسى الرضا، كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء. السلام عليك وعلى أختك فاطمة المعصومة الطاهرة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان، السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهور الأمر ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. والفاتحة مع الصلوات. اللهم صل. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم. أحسنتم.